Right, let's see if we can get some of these questions out the way. I think somewhere along the line I'm going to have to do a Q&A show, because there's about 3 pages. And so many have speculated that Ginsburg has moved on, and the Dems are keeping this a secret. Any truth to this rumour? I'm unaware that she's moved on as it stands. Who runs the Lucid Dreamer YouTube channel? Someone that is known to me now, following Mnuchin and others playing games with that channel, trying to disrupt it. And everything that goes on there is endorsed every week by me. So if you... Essentially, someone was saying the information comes across very fragmented, and the channel itself is not where I'd like to refer my people to. Well, some people don't have the patience to listen to 3 hours of shows. And so Lucid Dreamer is providing a good service, both to THI and to people who are interested in learning the truth, where they break it up into sections, and people can click on and listen to a 5 or 10 minute section of the show rather than 3 hours. So I think it's a good service, and I endorse it. Back to the 41 questions that I started about a month ago. There were studies done with groups focusing on decreasing the crime rates of specific areas, and then seeing that it actually did occur. This is to do with mass meditation again. Yes, it has been proven to work, but my warnings are, you have to be certain of who is within the group and who sets the intentions. That's the issue. It has been said that nothing in the world can overcome a completely non-resistant person. Nikolai Levashov speaks to the dangers of resistance in his short article on PSI. What you focus upon grows, whether it's wanted or unwanted. Absolutely. We covered that pretty much in last week's show. Now, if this is a truth and hints at the power and potential of the human species, then I believe we have an immediate and viable tool to use now. Not just now, but you have had a viable tool all your life. But you only choose to engage it until now. Why wait? We've said it all along. The biggest fear the cabal have is the people rising up, standing in their own sovereignty, looking after each other. That's what we have to do. Next part, your grounding and shielding technique is an example. As you often say, we have an innate and extremely powerful technology within our very being that we can individually and collectively use now for all of humanity's benefit. We could collectively focus on disbursement of funds, for example. My question back is, why is the funds the first thought? It's important, but not that important in the overall scheme of things. If the first thought is money, then in my opinion, you're not on the right path. There's lots of things that can be done without money. Caring for someone, sharing with someone, compassion. None of that costs money. Looking after each other doesn't cost any money. It's like people wishing each week that they win the lottery. What are you going to do with it? Buy fancy cars or fancy houses? whatever. How many will actually share it out? And therein lies the problem, is it not? Didn't I hear you say that you have had a major effect on potentially devastating weather systems? Well, it's not just me. People who believe they can do that have seen the evidence of being able to interfere with weather systems. So why don't we all use it, not just one or two? Perhaps people you work with in alt media, OIM, ground command control could join in on a mass focus events. It's possible, but I have warned of it recently. But this show and myself already does too much as it is, and adding more things to my list is not helpful at this moment. Next portion, perhaps at the very least you could take your listeners through the process and post it so we can use it on our own as a learning tool. Again, you're asking me to do things that somebody else can do. Have you considered whether I have the time, or whether I've already done it in the previous shows, which I have done? Right, we'll probably finish those lines of questions next week. Let's go and ask some of the other questions that people have sent in. Have you got any information or confirmation on Drake Bailey's claim that he took some purple shirt from the Pacer family, and also that he took out Marduk on his show a few weeks ago? My comment for that is, oh dear. Who is Satan and Baal? I know the Brotherhood of the Snake, Catholics and other religions worship Baal, and they have Satan and Baal gone with the jinns and the demons. I can confront the Freemasons who use demonic magic on me and stand a chance. Can I confront the Freemasons? That use demon magic on me and stand a chance now? Well, perhaps the person who asked this question, and there have been several questions like this on the same theme, and questions are generally based on the I and not the we, and it's common to many without realising they are doing it. But perhaps if you cut the cord of fear and of them attacking you, the issue will go away. Your energy and consent to it is facilitating the outcome they desire. It's all there to put you in fear mode. There are loads of people that are targeted, some way more than others, but some choose to not give it energy. Does it stop all the attacks? Not really, not in all cases anyway, but it does in some. But you control the energy or the state of mind that these type of events create. So do you continue to let it consume you, or do you cut the cord? Something to ponder on. In a past episode you mentioned that this was not worthwhile. However, you phrased it to record documents and declarations. I was relieved to hear this, but this is because A, the disassembly of the factions is occurring and it's no longer necessary, or B, they don't adhere to it anyway, more likely to use it against the people. I think I was telling people to record documents or website links. I don't recall mention about documents and declarations. I think you perhaps got mixed up. I could be wrong. but that's the way I remember it anyway. It was to do with website links and documents that you may have saved. When you go back, you're finding that they're missing. So all the links that you're saving to go back to something are suddenly vanishing. So it was more to do with that. I appreciate some insight on the said ownership of souls, because you previously, as you are aware, many were merely trying to free themselves in the only way they could figure out lawfully. Our naivety in many aspects led to a lot of people losing their souls. They sold them out. That's not figuratively speaking, that's literal. While some may be unfortunate, well, a lot may be unfortunate, for those who literally sold themselves out for pieces of paper, those people really need to spend a lot more time on soul development, and perhaps need to start at the bottom again, in my opinion. If you were seeking employment at this time, what question would you ask during an interview to quickly assess the overall integrity of the organisation? What is their lowest paid staff member? Minimum pay is poverty pay. The Dutch government are currently busy working on climate law, which is one of the many things that include a plan to cut the country off gas entirely by 2050 and fully independent on electric energy, which doesn't have to be a bad thing in and of itself, but their deal is to implement a so-called water pump system to heat the homes. And according to the person who wrote this question, it has not been proven as yet to be effective. Some parties attended the Bilderberg meetings are actually pushing for this water pump system, and the people in the Netherlands are very worried about this currently, as the costs for this pump is extremely high. My actual question that pops up is, what could be their actual agenda enforcing this BS on the Dutch people? Fairly simple. Russia controls most of the gas in the EU. So your country is being ran by NATO goons. Pure and simple. Where are we next? My question is about the troops in control of Rothschilds and Blackwater. How then can President Trump recall troops in the Middle East? Well, technically, Mr. Trump, although he now knows, the troops are American and belong to America. Of course, we know otherwise. That's the reality. So Trump throws out the message, and the others decide that's not happening. It's an example of Mr. Trump not being allowed to run the government at all. But there are certain circumstances where he can order the troops back. Maybe we'll see that in the near future. I'm curious about what happens to the Exchange Stabilisation Fund, which has been touted as the bank of last resort, where much of the stolen war gold have been accumulated. I don't think it is anymore. And as for the bank of last resort, we'll have more in the intel of that. The effort to completely turn the system down, banks and oil, is that just about the US, or is it a global thing? Well, because of the dollar and the way everything is calculated, and the fact that 86% of trade is done in dollars, if the US oil or banks go down, so does the rest of them globally. That's why the focus is here. Do the world leaders who know about the Manor World Holding Trust, most of them, if not all now, are aware of the Manor World Holding Trust, give any credence to what Anna von Ratz has to say? Not really, nobody knows her. Except her paymasters at Langley 2, the Nazis. A THI member told me that the memory wiping electromagnetic equipment, it's not electromagnetic, after death from now has been stopped a few years ago. That is correct. Can you please confirm and expand on this a bit as related to the breaking of the Mobius loop? That's being covered extensively in several shows. And it's also in the must listen to shows. You'll find it all there. What have you learned about language since the OYM show? Not a lot. Things has been too busy. You mentioned this planet has live living water. Are you referring to fresh water? No, I'm referring to all water. Despite certain entities adding salt to it. Is it possible to find another food source for the jinns, demons, so they can leave humans alone? Yes, they do have an alternative food source. I was notified this week of, following a meeting. But it's like going into a supermarket and buying a $3 or $4 bottle of wine compared to one that's about $20. They find us far more appealing. Work is underway to get them to stop that altogether. I'm having difficulty to understand how AI controls things or humans. You mentioned at one point in the Netflix series, The 100. Is that how AI is used? Is it a chip implant absolutely necessary? Well, it depends on the AI. You know, some of it just records. So, say the person who asked the question, AI decides to record you 24/7. Eventually, it's going to be a copy of you, is it not? And then it replicates. That's how it works. So it's essentially like an Alexa machine. It records everything you say and everything you do. And then should it be required to be played back, this is where the clones come in. This is where the channeling comes in, where you're hearing familiar voices, because the AI has mapped it, or did, the previous AI anyway. That's how it works. But the 100 series, essentially, a choice was made by humanity. They didn't want to go through pain, they didn't want to go through trauma, and they just wanted to party, drink and do drugs, and dance around and live in drama world with no personal responsibility. In essence, they became zombies. Where are we next? Why was pulling this universe viewed as a better solution than Source Creator amending and repairing its creation? They thought it's based on people's own assessment. You know, we all have different opinions on many things. And the consensus was that something that was 87% dark across this universe was too big of a burden to carry, and would take too much time to correct, and the danger was it would infect the other universes connected to the universal tree. So it's like when you get a plant and one branch is riddled. Sometimes you can cut that branch off, but other times you have to cut the whole tree down. If there is truly no hierarchy, and hierarchy is just a tool of the dark, then I don't feel this to be an unreasonable question. Is this universe kept running as an example of what rules not to set in place? No, some people or beings on both decided that it could be saved. And so far, despite many years, it's working. It seems as no. Are there still remnants of the electromagnetic equipment still around? I had a disturbing dream last week where a family member grabbed me and said it's time to go. I pulled away and said, no, I do not consent, and I immediately awoke. Well, you've done the right thing. There'll always be people pulling at your energy and trying to take you off your path. You decided you didn't consent and you pulled away. But unless you are able to fully cut off that cord or that connection, they'll always try and mess with your mind. That's the way it works. The shielding does help clear a lot of it. Not all. Depends on how you set your shield and the intention around it. When was the world last in the 45-55 light to dark ratio? Very briefly, as the dark took over. It's my understanding that this universe in particular was created light only, and then the dark got in. Well, of course, if you don't know what dark is and you only create light only, it proliferates. It's a bit like termites in a tree. You won't see the damage until it's too late, because the surface damage is very minimal compared to the internal damage, and therein lied the problem. So at some point the dark took over, and then it ran away to 8713, which is why they were considering on pulling the whole universe. Do you have suggestions on what would help develop psychic abilities other than meditation, as in connecting to the internet, the universal energy? This is all about you developing on a soul level, where you can then access. If you're still operating in the astral, which is a sign, then the likelihood of those abilities being to the forefront are limited. Both on the mental planes, certain ones get certain abilities, and some get psychic, and some get telepathic, and some get telekinesis, and the ability to travel from point A to point B in 0 time by location. It just depends on the individual and your level of soul development. There's no actual learning book or tool as such to develop psychic abilities, other than switching on your DNA, which is done by your own soul growth. I'll wait for time. Kim from the Man and World Holding Trust is 99% human DNA, the most pure form of humanity, as Tank explained. But what are we, the rest of the people on this planet? Are we vessels with a human soul, with specs like being multi-dimensional, with a precious co-creative blueprint? Souls are not human. Souls can be anything that the originator chooses. Soul can go into a dog in the next lifetime, or a tree, or whale, dolphin, even a reptilian. So souls are not just a property of humans. But there is a difference between this human vessel, as mentioned earlier, about the jinns and the life force, which is why they enjoy feeding off us so much, because of the whole package, when combined, is different to every other species in this universe. So everyone's unique in their own way. You can't make a comparison to Kim or anybody else. It's how you are and how you go about your life and your soul development. Turning it into a competition of who's got the most human DNA is not really helpful. You know, the person who asked the question, what have you in 99%? Source human DNA. What are you doing with it? That's the key. If people are on the mental planes and are not exercising their abilities, what's the point of it? Can the salting of the world seas be undone? I'm told yes, it can. And will it be undone according to the peace treaty? It's not really part of the peace treaty. It's up to us to correct things once the technology that is available on many, many things can be released properly. And there's a will of a majority of the people to actually change things on this planet and not carry on being slave masters. I wish we could have a project, the system full reset, and stop this and start over for real with all the truths available. I don't think you really understand the term reset. It means all life is removed apart from plant life. It's not a case of just wipe the slate clean and just plonk us all back in and start over again. It doesn't work that way. Well, it was going to work that way, but the full reset of the planet would have meant we would not be coming back, and the species line would end permanently as a failed experiment. This is what we're really, the bigger picture is what we're fighting for. Thomas, I've rarely seen the moon in the month of January. Is it purposely being hidden behind clouds for a reason? No. Was there any blowback from the elimination of M, or possibility of a future blowback from his family or friends? The family and friends are muted in essence. They're controlled by the council of not interfering. So that is not a possibility, or not a full-on possibility, even though the Lord has been playing games again, and a good friend of mine realigned him a bit recently. So, but the blowback from the elimination of M sent the cabal into a panic spiral, because he controls everything. Now, he's not in control, and they're not playing harvesters anymore, and Kim is, and they realise that they're in big trouble. So the blowback is theirs, not ours. As Kim was progressing along her career path, did she know deep down she was here for something greater and bigger that was yet to come? No idea. She had no idea. And then something kicked in around the age of 40 and everything changed. That's how it worked. Is there any plans to help people who need help? I think that's an example that we set last week of people writing stuff without thinking. This is what THI is all about. Every single show, every single minute is about helping people. And we all need help in one way or another. Maybe there was pieces missing to that question. I don't know. But THI is all about helping people. Is it wise for one to file exempt from federal deduction of their wages without being penalised now that the IRS and the Federal Reserve are not in operation? Well, they are in operation, but operating illegally. And I would never ever tell anyone not to pay taxes. You know, there's enough idiots in the alt media telling you to do this, that and the other, and people end up getting jailed. Just file your taxes. You can file an extension and see if something changes later on in the year, which may be helpful. But at this point, I'm telling everyone to file, whether that's filing for real or filing for an extension. Either way, until the full system is changed. Do you have anything on the origin of RH blood type? Rhesus negative is reptilian bloodline. What was President Trump talking about with there being a trade deficit with China? Did not the trust pay all our debts owed to China? Since it was said to have been done, hopefully this is an okay question. It was done. Like I said in December, you will not make sense of public statements here on in. And that is an example of that. Trump knows that trade deficit and also the Federal Reserve has been paid off. But like the person asking me the question on the US debt clock, the clowns run all them, and they want to keep the illusion going that America does owe the Federal Reserve X, Y and Z when it actually owes jack. And maybe it's the other way around. Aren't the financial assassination mercenaries and the murdering, torturing mercenaries violating the peace treaty? No. It's human to human. The peace treaty is about the other species violating humans, and vice versa. human-to-human issues have to be dealt with ourselves and is not part of the peace treaty. Let me see. Same again. The 22 trillion debt owed by America to the Fed, and the 1.476 trillion debt to China was settled in full by the Man of World Holding Trust. Correct. China even sent these notes back confirming the debt is settled, which went to Kim and her trust. And should the US national debt clock be zeroed out? Yes. And eventually will when the clowns are removed. Do we trust Tank? His video posts make me feel weird. Well, go with your own instinct. You don't need me to confirm one way or the other. Why is my opinion on someone more important than yours? If you don't feel you can trust them, then you should go with your own instinct rather than mine. I think that's enough on the questions. Apologies to those I didn't get round to, including some from last week and none from this week. They all get put into the file for the show and will eventually be answered at a later date. So apologies for that, but we've got that much to cover. That kind of takes precedent over Q&A, and given some of those questions and answers, or some of the questions, it's not really helping much, is it?